It has been 4 years since Sonic ended up being in Equestria after he fought along with his friends against Eggman from trying to take over the world. Sonic was very confused when he ended up in a whole new place. After he had attacked the machine that contained the Chaos Emeralds, there was a bright light that knocked him out. When he came to, he had no idea where he were. He was really confused because suddenly he was in one moment in Eggman's lab, and next he was in some sort of a meadow, seems unfamiliar area. When he came to, he stood up, looked around, and he didn't know if any of his friends end up in the same place. But he also know that when the machine became unstable when Eggman tried to use Chaos Control. He know that Chaos Control can teleport you from one location to another. And that was his first assumption, that he was teleported somewhere else on the planet. But exactly how far? If it was just only a few feet, if it was just a few miles, or even across the planet, he didn't even know. So he started to look around in the area for any signs of any of Eggman's robots or any of his friends. As he was looking around, he still didn't see any sign. So he started running around at the speed of the sound. He still couldn't find any signs of any of his friends. After a while, he stopped near a small lake, and he sat down and wondering what to do now, since he didn't know exactly where he were and even how far he ended up from this when the machine went off. So, but when he was sitting there, he saw this giant lizard or a reptile flying above him, which saw him and flew down to him and started talking to him. He asked what kind of lizard he is. He explained that he's a dragon. Sonic said that he has never actually seen a dragon before, only heard about those. He thought that they were long extinct. That dragon took the lizard almost as a little bit offensive. But Sonic apologized because he has never actually seen any dragons, and he asked where he were, if this dragon knows. And he said that he was in Equestria. Sonic looked a little bit surprised and told the dragon, which later learned to find out his name was Spike, that he didn't know or what nation or country Equestria were. Sonic was confused about it, and Spike, even though he was willing to tell him more about it, and he said that he could actually take him to a small town nearby where he could actually meet his friend Twilight Sparkle, who could telling him more about this place. Sonic actually at first was hesitating, but since Sonic seen that Spike had always been so far polite, hasn't even shown any signs of hostilities, and for at the moment there were no signs of any of Eggman's machines in the area. So he agreed. The first meeting between Sonic and Twilight was actually went very well. She get to know more about him and what led up to this place. She told him the most likely logical answer, that when this Chaos Emeralds send them to a whole different dimension or parallel universe or something. He was not surprised because he said that it had happened to him before. So, and he didn't actually had any difficulty to get used to this place. But it was sad that he couldn't go back to his own dimension or on his own universe. Even at first, it was a little bit hard to difficult to getting used to this. But Sonic actually got used to living in this peaceful land. There was only one small problem for him that he had to get used to. There were no big main villains that was threatening to take over the kingdom or attacking them all the time. There was only one character on one of these inhabitants that he at most didn't trust it at first. Discord. After what he heard about Discord's past and about how his unique magic, which is understandable for Sonic's character not being trusting Discord. Even at first, Discord and Sonic had some sort of rivalry, but after some time, they actually opened up to each other and became friends. And after had been living in this peaceful land for so long, Sonic didn't know what had this new purpose for him to be. Because back home, he was a hero. He fought against an enemy and other threats all the time. But now living in a peaceful land, he didn't know what to do. But he actually decided to stay in Ponyville because he was asked by Twilight at the time, shortly after he had got used to living in Ponyville, what he was going to do now. If he was going to stay in Ponyville or if he was going to travel around to see which place he wanted to stay in. But after some time, he decided to stay in Ponyville. After all, he had made good friends with Spike, Twilight, and the others. But it was only one thing that even that Twilight and most of all entire town of Ponyville was interesting about his speed. He has never even imagined of finding an animal or any creature could run that fast at the speed of sound. He and Rainbow, for most part, became really good friends. They in fact challenged against each other from time to time in a race. She was flying, he was running, and it was always a tie for most part. But sometimes even Rainbow managed to beat him by using the Sonic Rainbow. But despite this, Sonic sometimes felt a little bit lonely in his new home. Sonic actually had been hired by Twilight to be used as the new gym teacher at the school. And he didn't mind, even though he sometimes could be a little bit reckless when it come to in tracks, running in tracks or anything like that. He had to realize that he had to run it not too fast because there were no other creatures, especially the ponies, could never even run that fast. Or even the Pegasus normally wouldn't even be able to fly at the speed of sound, unlike Rainbow. So he had to get used to that, even though, but it was one other thing he really had to get used to. That he was unable to get his favorite food of all time, chili dogs. Chili was probably something he could still get, but hot dogs was unable to. But he managed to figure out something else. Chili was something he actually still preferred to eat. But he didn't mind to try some new food of all that. But of all the ones that are his new friends in Equestria, especially in Ponyville, there was only one other of those inhabitants that he was close to, except for Rainbow. Spike. Because Spike was the one of the few residents that was non-pony character creature. So Spike and Sonic actually related on that, despite that Spike was raised by ponies entire life. But they had some things that they could rely on too. And it was just something that Sonic saw Spike like a younger brother, like he did once with his own best friend back home, Tails. Sonic even had another part-time job other than being a gym teacher, and that was to deliver mail. He actually used his speed in order to deliver some mails around in town. And in fact, it happened that Spike and Sonic worked together in order to help Derpy at the mail office. And Sonic actually felt it was kind of fun to use his speed in order to deliver some of the mails in the outskirts of Ponyville and even around in town if Derpy was too busy in at the post office. Even though he didn't want to get paid, since he didn't need much of the money, but even though that his even though Derpy did insist it, so he did take some of the payment and he used sometimes most of the payment to buy some food when he's out if he travels to other places. He still have this interest of running around to different places to just do some exploring and just get some time for himself. Even that Spike himself sometimes could see even that Sonic sometimes looked to be happy, but deep down he was lonely. Even though he, despite had made so many new friends, and Spike could not even imagine how it is like living in one world to end up in one other, and then suddenly, in one instant, to be in another, and not also, and also knowing not being able to go back, no matter what, how much magic, how many, no matter regardless from which spells it is. Because at the time at first, Sonic was actually did ask Twilight if it is possible to use a spell to send him back. Twilight said if there was a possible spell for that, there was no way to say if she would send him back to save the right universe. Because according to her, there could have been a multiple different universes and they had to pinpoint the precise universe that he came from. There's always a risk that he could be transported to a whole different universe and not the same one he came from. Could it end up in a way worse universe or maybe something else? And even though the Sonic is a big to taking big risk, but he could understand that Twilight's concerns, so he eventually dropped the topic about the spell. And he was really just happy to be in a more safe place though. One day was Spike out flying by himself. He had actually didn't had any particular plans for the day, so he thought why not to get some fresh air or maybe stretch his wings to flying around a little bit. But he had chosen one day when there was not a big sunny day. It was a little bit cloudy, there's just a little bit of the wind. He realized that maybe at some point should maybe start raining, and he decided to return home before the rain started. But as he was on his way home, he actually passed by the Everfree Forest. But as he was just above the forest, the wind had increased a lot more. It gave him almost it was like he was flying against a wall of wind. He could barely even keep straight forward. But suddenly the rain started, and it heard the thunder. But as it happened, the lightning struck. It struck right in one of Spike's wings, and it shook him off guard. And he fell right to the ground, and he lost consciousness. Because as he fell down, it hit his head on a big rock, and as it happened, a, a big tree branch above him that he fell on was hanging and it fell over him. He was unconscious, and the wind and the rain picked on. Meantime, in Ponyville, Twilight was getting a bit worried that Spike hasn't even returned yet. But Sonic assured her that he's probably somewhere taking shelter for the storm. And it was a bad storm that was going on. Even Twilight was a little bit concerned and was thinking of just leaving the castle to look for him. But Sonic told her he's probably at either Fluttershy's home or perhaps in at Sweet Apple Acres taking shelter, since he was probably nearby, he said. But they didn't know exactly which direction or where he was even flying, because when Spike left, he didn't give them a precise location where he was going to flying around, since he said just flying around just to stretch my wings. And as the storm was going on, it was only getting worse and worse. But throughout the entire night, Spike was still unconscious in the evergreen forest and twilight. She was getting worse and worse. But the next morning, the storm had passed and it was over. So she said to Sonic if he had seen Spike yet, but he said no. He's probably on his way home soon, because it's still early in the morning, like almost 7 in the morning. So he said if he's not back before like 10 a.m., we will go look for him, he said. So 10 a.m. came and no sign of Spike anywhere. Now they decided to look around. First, Sonic ran around in Ponyville and asked if any pony had seen Spike, but no pony had even seen him since the day before. So he returned to the castle with this message to Twilight, who was now even more worried. They ran into Rarity, who was dating Spike, but she hadn't even seen him since last night, or since the day before. So even she was a bit worried, so she joined them to look around for Spike. They actually even went to Sweet Apple Acres. While they arrived, they saw that the Apple family was busy to remove some tree branches that fall off the trees and even make some small repairs to the barn and other places. But they were too busy to help to search for Spike. But they said they will let them know if they've seen him. But they also said that they hadn't even seen him. So when they went to Fluttershy's cottage, she said that she hadn't even seen Spike at all. In fact, she wasn't even aware that he was missing. So she told them that she will help them look around, but they didn't know exactly where to go. Sonic said, I can go into the every forest to look around. And Rarity said that was probably a best idea because they needed some pony go there. And Sonic actually was given a whistle that he will use if he had found Spike. He ran around on the paths in the forest. At first he got a little bit lost, since he is normally not in that part of the Equestria much. But after a while he thought, if I was Spike, I probably would try to find a shelter some nearby than on the paths, he thought himself. So he ran and walked near a path and saw there was a small path in the woods. So he decided to just walk in a bit to see if there was any signs of any cave or anything that some pony could take a shelter in. He did, and after only a few minutes, he found Spike. He used the whistle as loud as he could, and he grabbed Spike, ran out, and sure enough, because when he was about the entrance, he ran into Twilight, Rarity, and Fluttershy. They were horrified to see Spike unconscious in Sonic's arms. And when they saw the burn mark on his back above one of his wings, they were scared beyond that, especially Rarity. They tried to wake him up, but Spike was still unconscious. Sonic said that he will take him to the hospital, and he ran as fast as he could to the hospital. The others followed after with Twilight teleport him to the hospital. Luckily though, at the hospital when they arrived, Spike had woken up. He only felt a slight pain in his back, and the doctor was able to give him some treatment for the burn and said this will help and the burn mark will be just gone in a week or so. And Sonic was actually, this was told from Spike when he found out that he found him, that he was truly a true friend, that he was eager to find his friend. And Sonic's like, he said, Spike, you had always been there for me when I was down and always looked for me. I know you would do the same thing for me. And Spike's like, well, yeah, of course I would. And after he was able to leave the hospital, Spike got the treatment for a week, and Sonic was told from Spike that he was a really true friend. And even knowing from that Sonic was willing to give much out to save his friends. And Sonic was told from Spike that he was the best friend he ever could ask for. And this is how Sonic and Spike became true friends. The end.